Hi everyone, so this is the second video of the paper 2 examination strategies. In this video I'm going to focus specifically on part G. Now remember, paper 2 as a whole is worth 40 marks and you have 1 hour and 45 minutes for all of paper 2. Part G by itself is worth 15 marks. So I would advise spending about 45 minutes of this 1 hour and 45 minutes. Spend about 45 minutes writing your Part G essay. So let's see, what are you required to do in Part G? Part G is basically a discussion, evaluation, and text analysis essay. You are discussing and evaluating using the text, and you're also analyzing evidence from the text. It usually starts with the same statement. It says, using information from the text data and your knowledge of economics, discuss so and so and so, and as I said, it's worth 15 marks. Now, it says using information from the text and data as well as your knowledge of economics. This is where you combine your knowledge of economics with the text and the data that is provided, and then you discuss based on the question. Let's have a look at the rubric so I can give you some tips for tackling this question. And there is the rubric that the IB subject guide has provided for us. Okay, you can see it's very overwhelming to read and understand this rubric, so I'm going to explain every strand or every skill. The first skill you're being assessed on is your understanding of the question and ability to address it. So the understanding and addressing of the question. As you can see, there are 5 levels. There's level 1, which is 1 to 3 marks, level 2, 4 to 6 marks, level 3, 7 to 9 marks, level 4, 10 to 12 marks, and level 5, 13 to 15 marks. If there is little understanding of the specific demands of the question, this is level 1. If there is some understanding of the specific demands of the question, this is level 2. If there is understanding of the question, but the question has only been partially addressed, that's level 3, between 7 and 9 marks. If you have understood and addressed the specific demands of the question, that's both level 4 and level 5. Okay? Now, obviously, it's very important that you understand the question and you make sure you address all parts of the question. Make sure you're always coming back to the question, read through your essay and ask yourself, have I actually addressed the question, or did I write some, disorganized, incoherent thoughts that don't really answer the question? Okay? So this is the first skill you're being assessed on, your understanding of the question and ability to address it fully. The second skill is your ability to explain economic theory. So your explaining of economic theory. Again, there are 5 levels. If you have stated some economic theory, but this theory is not relevant, that's level 1, the lowest level, between 1 to 3 marks. If you have described very briefly the economic theory, that's only level 2, between 4 to 6 marks. If you have partly explained the economic theory, that's level 3, between 7 to 9 marks. If you have explained the relevant economic theory, that's level 4, between 10 to 12 marks. If you have fully explained the relevant economic theory, that's level 5, between 13 to 15 marks. So you obviously, I'm assuming everybody is aiming for level 5. You want to make sure that you have fully explained relevant economic theory, not irrelevant economic theory. Okay, you have fully explained the relevant economic theory. The third skill you are being assessed on is your ability to use relevant economic terms appropriately. So using economic terms. If you have stated economic terms, but they are not relevant, that's level 1, between 1 to 3 marks. If you have included some relevant economic terms, that's if you've just included them, without using them appropriately, that's level 2, between 4 to 6. If you have included some relevant economic terms and used them appropriately, just because it's some terms, that's level 3, between 7 to 9 marks. If you have included relevant terms and used them appropriately, most of the time, you can say. That's level 4, 10 to 12 marks. If you have included relevant economic terms and used them appropriately throughout the whole response, that's level 5. So to access level 5, which I'm assuming everybody is aiming for, you want to make sure that the relevant economic terms are all included and that they are used appropriately throughout the response. The fourth skill is your ability to draw diagrams and apply them as part of your analysis. Okay, you can see if you don't include a diagram, you are running the risk of only landing on level 1 or level 2. Okay, because you can see there isn't a criterion for diagrams in level 1 and level 2. Therefore, you need to include a diagram. So starting from level 3, if you have included a diagram where appropriate or relevant diagrams, that's level 3. If you have included and explained relevant diagram or diagrams, that can get you on level 4 between 10 to 12 marks. If you have included a relevant diagram or relevant diagrams and fully explained all these diagrams, that will guarantee you access to level 5 between 13 to 15 marks. So when it comes to the skill of diagrams, you want to make sure that you have included relevant diagrams and you have fully explained those relevant diagrams. The next skill you're being assessed on, the fifth skill, is synthesis and evaluation. Your ability to synthesize, discuss, and evaluate. This is basically the whole argument versus counter-argument framework that I spoke about in the Paper 1 Part B video. Okay, so what's the argument versus counter-argument framework? When you are looking at the short run or short-term impacts, you are balancing it with the long run or long-run impacts in your discussion or your evaluation. When you're looking at pros or advantages, you are balancing them with the cons or disadvantages in your evaluation. When you're looking at the stakeholders that are gaining, the winners, the stakeholders that gain from a specific policy or decision, you are balancing it with the losers or the stakeholders that lose from this policy or decision. When you're looking at the assumptions of any model or the assumptions of your analysis, you are balancing it with the limitations of these assumptions. I would encourage you, whenever you are offering an argument, add a full stop, a period, and then write however, or on the other hand, provide the counter argument. Okay, so what are the 5 levels? If there's no evidence of synthesis or evaluation, that's level 1. If there's superficial evidence, okay, that will land you on a level 2. If there's appropriate evidence of synthesis and evaluation, but it's unbalanced, it lacks balance, that will keep you on a level 3. If there's evidence of appropriate synthesis and evaluation and it's mostly balanced, remember, whenever you provide an argument, try to write however and then provide a counter argument. If it's mostly balanced, the highest level you can access is level 4, between 10 to 12 marks. If your synthesis and evaluation is effective and balanced, you have fully effective evaluation that is completely balanced, this is what you need to access level 5. Therefore, to access level 5, make sure your synthesis and evaluation is effective and balanced. I always tell my students to pick at least 3 of this framework here. So maybe discuss the short-term and long-term impacts, discuss the winners and losers of this policy or decision, and discuss the advantages and the disadvantages. And this will guarantee that your evaluation is effective and it's balanced to access level 5. Now, the last skill you're being assessed on, and basically it's the skill that distinguishes Paper 2 Part G from Paper 1 Part B. Okay, this is the skill that makes this Paper 2 Part G essay unique, is your ability to use the text and the data provided. Okay, make sure whenever you are referring to the text or the data that you refer to the text number and the paragraph number and or the table number. So if you have text A, text B, and text C, and each text has a number of paragraphs, make sure you write something like, as mentioned in text B, paragraph 4, or as shown in table 3, and then analyze the data. Okay, make sure you refer explicitly. Don't be vague, be explicit. Refer explicitly to the text number and the paragraph number and or the table number whenever you're using statistics or evidence from the text. Now, to access level 5, all right, you have to formulate, you have to use information from the text and the data appropriately, and this information is relevant, and you've used it to formulate arguments supported by analysis and evaluation. If there's no use of the text or data, okay, the highest level you can access is level 1. If you have not used the text or data at all, okay, that's basically landing you on a level 1. If there's limited use, so level 2 is limited use of the text or data. Level 3 is some use, if you've only used the text but not very often, and some of the information you've used is relevant, some other information you've used is not relevant. That's level 3. Level 4, the use of information is generally appropriate, relevant, and applied correctly. If you've used evidence from the text appropriately, relevantly, and correctly, that's level 4. But if you've used the text appropriately, relevantly, and you used this information and the data to formulate a reasoned argument supported by analysis and evaluation, it's not enough to just quote data or evidence from the text. You have to make sure whenever you are taking a quote or you're citing the text that you also provide analysis. So don't just quote for quoting's sake. Don't just write evidence from the text and leave it without any analysis. You have to analyze whatever evidence from the text or the data you are using. So, to wrap up, in order to access level 5, which I'm assuming is what everybody is aiming for, and that's the mark range between 13 and 15 marks. In order to access that, you need to make sure that the specific demands of the question are understood and addressed. You need to make sure that relevant economic theory is fully explained. You need to make sure that relevant economic terms are used appropriately throughout the response. You need to make sure that where appropriate, relevant diagram or diagrams are included and fully explained. You need to make sure that your essay, the response, contains evidence of effective and balanced synthesis or evaluation. And you need to make sure that the use of information from the text and data is appropriate, relevant, and is used to formulate a reasoned argument supported by analysis and evaluation. I hope you all can manage to access level 5 whenever you are confronted with a paper 2 part G question. Good luck.